Mr. Fisk.
Welcome back, everyone. This will be my full Marvel Hawkeye Episode 6 finale video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs. I'll explain what's going on with the characters, where they're going to show up next, because most of these big characters, like the real big ones, like Kingpin, will be coming back. I'll also explain how this crosses over with the events of Spider-Man No Way Home. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I'll be doing episode videos for the Book of Boba Fett. That's starting next week, too. That'll be like our next big series. Then I believe Marvel's Moon Knight episodes will be like the next Marvel Disney Plus series early next year, and then the She-Hulk episodes. But I'll cover those in different videos when they drop more trailers for them. Careful for spoilers from Hawkeye Episode 6 if you have not seen it yet, and careful for spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home if you haven't seen the movie yet, just because we'll have to talk about the crossover moments. We'll just start at the beginning and work our way through shot by shot, talking about WTF moments and Easter eggs as we go along, starting with the episode title. So this is Christmas. Just a reference to that ticking clock, like the deadline that Hawkeye set for himself, the promise he made to his family, I'll make it home by Christmas, which he did, which was the big theory. Like, they wanted to have a happy ending, so it was going to be more optimistic than, say, like the Loki ending, where he completely foobarred the multiverse with the help of Sylvie. The actual crossover with Spider-Man No Way Home happens at the end of the movie when Spider-Man is seen swinging in his brand new costume right through Rockefeller Center in the Christmas tree here in the ice rink, where we saw them fight in the Hawkeye finale. But the idea is that they destroy the tree during the Hawkeye finale, and it's closer to actual Christmas Day. So I think the idea is that Spider-Man is swinging here through Rockefeller Center a couple days before, or just a little while before, the events of the Hawkeye finale. So, like, he isn't swinging through while they're fighting, but he's swinging around New York City while the events of the Hawkeye series is happening. I know there's a lot of big WTF questions about what happened with the way they left the Kingpin character, what they did with him in the episode. Don't worry, I'll talk about that in depth in the future of his character in the MCU when we get to that part of the episode. But suffice to say, he is not dead. Like, that is not the last time you'll see Kingpin in the MCU. Getting Kingpin and Daredevil in the MCU in the same week. How's that for a Christmas present from Kevin Feige? But the actual episode starts with Kingpin himself showing up to a meeting with Kate's mother, and it's basically the meeting that Yelena Belova was telling Kate Bishop about and sending her pictures and video from. And during the scene, they basically explain what their history was, confirming a lot of our theories that we've had since the first couple of episodes. But one of the big things that they've done for the Kingpin in the MCU, reintroducing him from the Daredevil Netflix series, is they've given him a different version of the white suit that he wears in the comics, and they've given him the cane that he uses in the comics. He didn't use that during the Daredevil Netflix series. He doesn't actually need it in the comics, he just uses it as a weapon. But they confirmed that Kate's father was in serious debt with the Kingpin, that when he died during the Avengers Battle of New York during the events of the first Avengers movie, his mother was left to repay the debt to Kingpin, and she basically used Bishop's security to do that, doing him favors, just doing whatever he asked of her, using all the technology that they use to track people. Like, they've already confirmed that she was basically behind the tracksuits in the hit on the auction during episode 1, so they do stuff like that all over the city, just things that you would expect the Mafia to do. They don't completely explain everything that happened to him after the events of Daredevil Season 3. Daredevil beat him, successfully got him arrested again, and then, as far as we know, he didn't get snapped because he was around during the 5-year time jump when Hawkeye was Ronin to actually call out the hit on Echo's father. But they never really referenced Infinity War during Daredevil Season 3. So I think the idea is that, like a lot of criminals and other villains in the MCU who didn't get snapped, they use the 5-year time jump to grow their power base. Like, Kingpin used the 5-year time jump to retake control of New York City for the most part. They set up the whole Eleanor versus Kingpin arc during the episode. It plays out pretty quickly. They confirmed the theory that she was actually the person behind Armand's murder. Not that she necessarily did it herself, like she wasn't the one who actually stabbed him in the back, literally, but she is the person responsible for it. Like, Kingpin told her to get it done, and she used the tracksuit bros. That's what the whole Sloan company was about. That was just a shell company that she was using to pay the tracksuit bros and make it seem legit. I'm sure Matt Murdock Daredevil would love to get his hands on some of that evidence that Eleanor Bishop has. But one of the things they're really trying to do in this Kingpin opening scene here is to clearly set him up as the main villain of the series. Like, you kind of thought that Eleanor Bishop was going to wind up being the main villain and Kingpin would kind of be like a side character. No. They want you to think Kingpin is the real main villain. Then Hawkeye basically gives Kate Bishop everything that she's been wanting from him for the past couple of episodes. He calls her his partner, then they spend most of the episode teaming up, like having their own little Team Hawkeye Avengers Assemble moments. He also shows her how to create trick arrows, so I think the idea is that the next time we see Kate Bishop come back, maybe she'll show up during Ant-Man 3, she'll have a bunch of her own trick arrows that she's created herself. When they're doing the montage of them creating all the trick arrows, though, there's a bunch of big Easter eggs here from the comics. So the Guardian pepper spray is just a subtle Easter egg for the Guardian Marvel character. He's from the X-Men comics, but he was part of Alpha Flight with Wolverine. And even though they're creating a bunch of new trick arrows here, they're also fixing up and repairing a lot of the old trick arrows too that you've seen before. So there's about 20 different trick arrows here. About half of them are ones that he had before, and half of them are brand new ones. Like, he whips out the Pimtech arrow again that he'd used before, but this time they use it for shrinking the tracksuit bros instead of making something bigger. They set up a couple jokes that they pay off later, like the arrow that's too dangerous, and then when she grabs the label maker and actually labels it too dangerous and starts labeling the other arrows, that's a callback to the earlier episode during the car chase when she was grabbing all the wrong arrows yelling at Hawkeye because none of them were labeled, so she didn't know which one she was grabbing at any given time. Some of the new ones that they confirm are the airbag arrow, the freeze arrow, the flash bomb arrow, the icebreaker arrow. Then there's a couple other ones from the comics we see Hawkeye use, like the electro disruptor arrow. And even though it is kind of a bummer to see Kingpin snap most of the trick arrows like a bunch of twigs, they wind up paying off the trick arrow that's quote-unquote too dangerous also by paying off the coin flip trick when Kate Bishop flips the coin, then sets off the chain reaction to take Kingpin down using the too dangerous arrow. They also remind you that a lot of these trick arrows are based on Stark tech. As Iron Man joked during Avengers Age of Ultron, he literally makes all their cool toys. A lot of what Hawkeye does creating his trick arrows is improvisation. Like, he has some of the old favorites, like trick arrows that he always uses in his quiver, but then sometimes based on the situation, he'll create something new. Like I said though, this is all just meant to be a tutorial for Kate Bishop because she's slowly becoming the next version of Hawkeye, so she has to learn how to create her own trick arrows. Then they set up the whole Echo versus Kingpin arc in the episode, sort of paying off the idea with her learning the truth about what happened with her father, Kingpin calling out the hit on her father, confirming that Kingpin is the uncle character. Like, we all knew it a couple episodes ago, but this just confirms that. And even though she lies to him, like she's kind of trying to feel him out, asking for a couple days off, Kingpin knows exactly what she's doing. Like, oh, well, we gotta get rid of her now too. But despite all the backstabbing, it does seem like he genuinely cares about her. It's just that his business of controlling the city as the Kingpin controlling the Mafia is more important to him than she is. Kate Bishop finally tells Hawkeye about the story of seeing him during the Battle of New York, what it was like for her, how it inspired her to become a hero. I believe there was a trailer scene from a while ago where Hawkeye jokes that he actually broke a bunch of bones when he swung in. Like, yes, it looked really cool because you were a little kid seeing me do this, but in actuality, I broke most of my bones doing that. But her whole speech is about the idea that you don't need superpowers to be a hero. Even though you just have an arrow, some string, and a bow, you're still a hero to me. There's some more cool training scenes with Hawkeye trying to mentor Kate Bishop, like, okay, size up all the threats and assets at the party here, and we learned that they have all the LARPers working on staff trying to help them case the party. They have a couple funny moments with Jack. He actually has a pretty funny arc during this episode, and they confirm that he is like the himbo of Hawkeye. He knew absolutely nothing about what was going on, like he was oblivious to everything that Kate's mother was doing this whole time that he was in a relationship with her. And they just play it like he's enjoying himself like nobody's business, like he's just happy to be here, like, oh, I finally get to use my sword skills, let's have some fun. And based on his ending in the episode, it seems like he's going to be joining the LARPers group. There's this level of theatricality to his character, it seems like he would fit in with them perfectly. I loved everything about Yelena Belova's arc during the episode and all of her scenes with Kate Bishop, but all the scenes she had with Kate Bishop were amazing. We need way more of their characters teaming up together. You also notice that she enters the party wearing green in stark contrast to all the other people that are wearing black and red, just sort of foreshadowing her fight in front of the giant green Christmas tree on the ice with Clint later in the episode. And they have all those funny scenes with Kate Bishop, like they both try to jump into the elevator, pressing all the buttons on the elevator to slow them down so they have to stop at every floor. It's an oldie but a goodie, and that funny reveal of her new costume. Like, did you do that on purpose? This is just a version of her comic book costume. They do the same thing for Hawkeye later when he takes it off, like, oh yeah, you wore your new costume. Hawkeye's wearing a version of his costume from the Matt Fraction run, which inspired the story of a lot of the Hawkeye series. Love the way that Yelena yeets out the window and almost takes out Hawkeye using that same trademark Black Widow move, the tether, and the way that Kate Bishop has her own superhero landing. Like, she does her own superhero landing with the pose, just like Natasha did, and then just like Yelena Belova did during the Black Widow movie. So Kate Bishop also a total poser, just like the others. They pay off that joke with Tomas from earlier in the series, the tracksuit bro, thanking Kate Bishop for the relationship advice she gave him about the concert. And most of the takedowns that she has during this big final fight here, like sliding around the ice, are just meant to show how she's grown over the series and learned from Hawkeye. They set up the joke with the owl when Hawkeye gets thrown into the tree after they cut his zipline. But I do have some questions about the owl that carried off that tracksuit bro's little miniaturized truck. Like, is it going to eat them like mice now? Did the Pym particles wear off and the tracksuit bros in the truck get bigger later? They don't get to use all the trick arrows here, but they do use some of the ones that they've used before, like Kate Bishop uses the acid arrow again to basically cut the tree down or burn through the tree trunk. We get Hawkeye versus Yelena Belova round 2 after she tackles him on the ice, but it really isn't much of a fight. Like, this is more of a conversation that they have where he basically explains what happened to Natasha. But it was always going to have to end with a conversation like this. Like, okay, this is what actually happened on Vormir. She wanted to sacrifice herself. It felt a little weird that it was the bird call that actually turned her around on Hawkeye. Like, wait a minute, how did you know that? They were just trying to say that Yelena Belova didn't understand how close Hawkeye was to Natasha. Like, they were like brother and sister, but Yelena Belova didn't really learn about Hawkeye till later. Like, she knew about the Avengers, so the idea is that the bird call was something that Natasha and Yelena developed when they were children. During the Black Widow movie, we saw that flashback, and only they knew about. Like, it was a secret between the two of them, and that's why she did it at her gravestone in the Black Widow post-credit scene. So when she heard Clint use the secret call, that was just a way to say, oh no, Natasha would have told him all of her deepest secrets. So that means that they were super close, she trusted him. She bails and runs off into the night. Obviously, this isn't the last time we're going to see her. There's still all the stuff going on with Val that's unresolved with the Thunderbolts team. And while they're resolving the Hawkeye versus Yelena Belova fight, we get Echo versus Kazi, and this all kind of feels a little bit rushed. Like, they tried to imply there was some relationship between the two of them a couple episodes ago, but we haven't spent a ton of time with the Echo character. So you can kind of tell how they're trying to set her up as an anti-hero in the series, but it feels like there just wasn't enough of her story. Also in the same way that they just kind of introduced Kingpin in the last 2 episodes, like, oh hey, here's Kingpin, he's been doing a bunch of stuff. Like, wait a minute, I have so many questions about this now. Even though they play this like Echo kills Kazi, the actor who plays Kazi said that he would love to come back for the Echo spin-off series, so because you don't actually see his body put in the ground, like he's not buried or anything like that, they could always say that he survived. But then they finally give us some actual Kingpin action scenes. So when he rips the door off Eleanor's car and seems like he's gonna yoink her right out of it, it's meant to be a callback to the Daredevil Netflix scene when he grabbed the Russian out of the car and beat him to death with the door. You embarrassed me in front of Vanessa. They have a couple jokes about how hard it is to kill him when he soaks all the damage from Kate's arrows and just gets plowed through the department store window. Like, this is an FAO Schwartz that he gets plowed into. If it wasn't clear from the Daredevil Netflix series, in the comics, Kingpin is huge. Like, they kind of did him that way during Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like, he has that tiny little head on this massive body. That's what he looks like in the comics. And all this bulk that you see here underneath his clothes, that's not fat. He's pure muscle. It only looks like fat, which is one of the ways why he winds up beating so many people in one-on-one fights, because they underestimate his physical abilities. Like, he throws Kate Bishop around that FAO Schwartz like she's a toy, and then snaps her trick arrows like they're a bunch of twigs. But she is able to slow him down a little bit with the coin flip trick and the arrow that's too dangerous, just paying off those setups from earlier in the episode. Then I was a little disappointed with the way they resolved Kate Bishop in her mother's arc when she winds up getting arrested. Like, they're arresting her for Armand's murder, so she's going to be chilling out in prison for a little while, just like Kingpin got sent to prison during Daredevil Season 2. Maybe if they do a Hawkeye Season 2, they'll bring her mother's character back. Like I said, I was a little disappointed that there wasn't a little bit more going on with her mother's character. Like, I was hoping for some secret identity or just something a little bit cooler going on in her past, so it just felt a little weak the way they ended her mother's arc in the episode. Then the way they end Echo versus Kingpin, this scene here, is a reference to their ending in the comics, and the way she blinded him after learning the truth about him killing her father. Obviously, they traded the Daredevil character in this equation for the Hawkeye Ronin character. But if there was any question, even though you hear the gunshot, Kingpin is still alive. The other part of the comic book reference here is when Kingpin tells her sometimes family doesn't see eye to eye. Well, in the comics, when she shoots him, when he appears next in the Daredevil comics, he's blinded from the attack. So they're just trying to foreshadow that Kingpin will be coming back wounded during the Echo Disney Plus spin-off series. We probably won't see episodes for that till at least 2023. But the idea is that when they come back for that, like, Kingpin will be a much bigger character. He'll be in like all the episodes, and Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock and Daredevil character will be back for that as well, for the Echo episodes. Then Hawkeye brings Kate Bishop and Pizza Dog back to his farm to have Christmas with the family. They finally confirm my Mockingbird theory with his wife in the watch. So the watch belonged to Hawkeye's wife Laura, but on the back there's a S.H.I.E.L.D. logo and the number 19. That's a reference to Agent 19 in the comics, aka Mockingbird. Now they don't say it out loud, but the idea is that Mockingbird's name is actually Barbara Morse, or Bobby Morse. She was married to Hawkeye for a long time in the comics, but in the MCU we've only heard them call Linda Cardellini's character Laura. So I think the idea is that her middle name is Laura, and she just goes by that as a way to keep her identity as Mockingbird secret. Like, her real full name is probably Bobby Laura Morse Barton. I know a lot of you are asking, what does this mean about the Mockingbird from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., played by Adrian Palicki? I think we can safely say, based on this, all that stuff from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was happening in another universe. It's just the easiest way to explain that. Just the easiest way to avoid any confusion with MCU continuity. Like, Adrian Palicki is a variant of Hawkeye's wife. They burn Hawkeye's Ronin costume, which is actually something they probably should have done before they left New York. Like, I have some questions about this. Why would Hawkeye travel with it when another villain could just attack him and take it? It just seems like an unnecessary risk, keeping it longer than he needed to. When Kate Bishop starts jokingly suggesting bad codenames for herself, Lady Hawk, Hawk Eve, Hawkshot, Lady Arrow, all those joke names are references to the funny names people called her and that she tried to call herself in the comics. She's been called Hawkette, Hawkingbird, Kate Hawk, Lady Bro, Lady Hawkeye, Lady Hawkman, Hawkess, Taskmistress, as a play on Taskmaster, and Weapon Woman. But the way they played in the episode, it's just set up for Hawkeye to have that scene at the end where he says, you know, I have an idea. And even though they cut to black, it's obviously him saying, why don't you just call yourself Hawkeye? Because in the comics, Kate Bishop also calls herself Hawkeye. Like, they both exist at the same time. There's like two different characters that call themselves Hawkeye. During the end credits, they did have a special new Christmas card from Marvel just saying Happy Holidays from Marvel Studios. In the actual post-credits scene, no joke, is legit just the full version of the musical song Save This City. I was actually pretty surprised by this. Like, I kept watching, waiting for some kind of reveal, like some of the other Avengers characters sitting in the audience just kind of rolling their eyes and laughing at the musical like, can you believe this? So yeah, I was a little disappointed at the post-credit scene. I was hoping for something more on par with the Loki series, where they're just like teasing more plot, like what's happening next with these characters. But the only other really big question that I feel like they didn't answer that they kind of should had was, what did Kingpin want with Mockingbird's S.H.I.E.L.D. watch? Like, did it have some secret information on it, or was it just a way to track down Hawkeye's family as a way to retaliate against Hawkeye Ronin because of what he did during the 5-year time jump? And now we have so many questions about what Hawkeye's wife did during her time as Mockingbird when she was an active S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Like, where are all those adventures? Like, are there going to be flashbacks to that? Will she show up in some other Marvel Disney Plus series? Will they tell that story? But it was an awesome week this week, getting both Daredevil and Kingpin back within a couple days of each other. I'll probably do some more Daredevil and Kingpin videos this week. I'm waiting a couple days to do more spoilery videos on Spider-Man No Way Home. But if you spotted any other big Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't talk about during the video, or you have any other big questions about what happened during the series, just write it below in the comments. Next week, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Star Wars episodes are going to be starting. I'll be doing videos for all the episodes just like I did for The Mandalorian. It's kind of like The Mandalorian Season 2.5 with a bunch of Mandalorian characters crossing over. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming up though. We'll get some trailers for the other Marvel Disney Plus series pretty soon too. While you wait for that, everyone click here for that Doctor Strange 2 trailer video, and click here for my Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.